All right, everybody, we are back again. It is January 9th, 2019, 12:01 a.m. So, first minute into January 9th. All right, let's talk about something here. We have a few questions, actually a lot of questions in the comments sections recently about this particular chart right here. This is a county by county chart. It lets you know what is going on in your county at current time. We just used this chart in a previous video to talk about the avalanche warnings going on in Utah, possibly being caused by earthquakes, which is currently my opinion based on the time frame of how all this went down. But again, that was a previous video. If you want to check that out, that is the video right before this one. Now, we have just been following a system that is currently leaving the Northeast, and people are asking me why West Virginia is currently under winter weather storm warnings, while parts of PA and New Jersey and the Chesapeake Bay area are not, and then it skips and we got the warnings going on in the upper Northeast. This is for a few reasons, and we talked about it briefly in the last video. I'm going to get into it a little more here. So, first, let's talk about one thing. This is the current snow cover in the U.S. Most of it, obviously, in the West, as we have a big system that is beginning to pour down over these states now. This will come into play in the coming days, which I will also explain. Again, more snowfall due to that snow we just had that came across the Great Lakes and is now exiting the Northeast. Now, the reason for the winter weather advisories in West Virginia is because this is not quite done yet. We have a counterclockwise motion going on, which is eventually going to tie into a possible major snowstorm that's going to come across basically Oklahoma, Kansas, straight across the U.S., but basically just below the Pennsylvania borderline. So this is technically a mid-central east snowstorm that we could be dealing with. A lot of precipitation in the south, not so much snow down here, but certainly the possibility of snow even in South Carolina. We talked about this the other day as well. This is what they are expecting by Sunday the 13th. Look at how the snow changes. This is where they expect most of the snow to be. And look at some of these numbers, guys. Look at the deep blue color here. That's between 4 and 6 inches of snow. When you get towards, oh boy, when you get towards North Carolina and Virginia, we could be looking 8 to 10 inches. We got a spot on the border right there that shows 10 inches to a foot. So we have a lot to talk about here, and let's start by talking about where this is actually coming from. Now, with that said, the Northeast, this is what's been going on in the past 18 hours, give or take. This system is making its way towards the U.S. now. It's currently right here. So you could see how it's affecting this part of the country and why we have the winter weather warnings up in this area and still the winter weather warnings up in the Northeast. Now, if I backtrack, what I want you to focus on is how there is a counterclockwise loop going on. Now, you have the moisture right here. You can see as this moisture moves across, it gets caught up in a counterclockwise rotation. That is the jet stream dipping down, and the second the moisture touches that cold air, it becomes snow, and then you have this. As we pass into frame 200, you could see how mostly rain in New York right now. It's currently raining in Northeast Pennsylvania where I am, and the reason for the West Virginia warnings is because of what's coming around the back side of this. Now, I can't show you on this chart because it only brings you to current time, but if I go back and forth here, kind of follow this dip right here. See how this is kind of dipping down into the U.S. right at the Canadian border? Watch what it does as we get towards frame 200. It dips right over the Great Lakes, and it's going to continue swinging this way. And what that's doing is that's pulling the moisture that is being pushed out into the Atlantic and bringing it back around and down into the states. Now, this is going to come and go within about a 24-hour period. So once you go back to this chart here, our county-by-county chart, chances are you won't even see this here 24 to 36 hours from now. And now my famous words, with that said, here comes the second system. And this one might be a pretty significant storm, not just because of the amount of snow it is expected to bring, but because of where the snow is going to be. So this is going to exit out, boom, gone, out of mind, out of sight, all of that. but what we need to focus on is the dips in the jet stream. Again, when you go on Tropical Tidbits, these blue lines here represent those dips. That's why when you see the blue color, you usually see the snow above it. Anything below it, you usually see the greens. That represents the rain. And then the yellows represent severe thunderstorms, things of that nature. Again, you can look right here and see blues and pinks. That's because it is colder up in this area. That is why we have the current winter weather warnings going on in that area and in the Northeast, as we just explained. Now, as far as the system that is making its way across the U.S. and could bring a troubling storm to this area, let's look at how that's going to form. Now, as we move forward into the 10th, you're going to see a system build up here, and this is usually the case when we get these big storms. It's two separate systems that end up meeting right around this area, and then they decide whether they're going to come up and swirl around the Northeast or if they're going to continue to get pressed down and keep it more of a rain situation. This is a very unique situation because, again, we are dealing with an El Nino season, which is going to last from now basically through spring, where the jet stream dips come so low that we are getting exceptionally cold weather in southern states. And with that said, again, you could see as this system moves in on the southern area of the U.S., this big system that moved in the west is going to meet it right around here, and that's when we start to see the chaos begin. And we are looking at Missouri, Arkansas. They're going to be the first to experience this. So you can see the blue lines dipping down, and as soon as the moisture hits those areas, it turns to a snow and rain mix. And then as we move into the 12th, we're talking all-out snowstorm in Missouri. Now, as we move even farther into this day, we're still Saturday, January 12th. January 12th, still Saturday, so you can see this is a quick mover. This is going to go from Missouri into Illinois, into Indiana. It's going to be the front end of it, actually, is going to pass the eastern parts of Kentucky and Tennessee with the low pressure centralized over Texas. Like we said, we're going to expect some severe weather and possible flooding in Texas. Definitely Louisiana. We already talked about that. 3 to 4 inches of rain statewide. That just gives you an idea of how much precipitation is involved with this storm. And then as we move into Saturday, or Sunday rather, the 13th, that is when things get very interesting. Now, where this line is going to be, we don't quite know yet. This may dip a little farther south and may come up a little farther north. But the point of this is the fact that we are going to be seeing snow in areas that we don't usually get snow. And this is going to involve West Virginia once again, Virginia. We got North Carolina here. And again, same situation that we just talked about. One part of it's going to pass through, and then as that counterclockwise motion comes back, depending on where the jet stream is, as you can see here, it looks pretty low to me. As it begins to whirl around again, it's going to come back and do a double hit. So you can see that on this chart. Right there is that second part of the storm. So as it makes its way into the Atlantic Ocean, we're going to get a pullback that's going to bring even more snow to the West Virginia and Virginia areas, possibly Kentucky and Tennessee as well. And we cannot rule out North Carolina once again. So we've been talking about this for a few days now. As each day passes, we get more and more data, but this is looking more and more like your typical winter storm. This thing will more than likely be named. It's stretching all the way up to the Great Lakes, massive dip in the jet stream, and then a lot of moisture and rain and severe weather, even tornadoes they're talking about with hail, all sorts of crazy stuff going on in the south. And once it gets to the southeast, that's when things are going to be at their worst. You see those yellow patches? That's severe weather right there. That's North Carolina. Just to the north of that is the ice rain mix, and then total snow coverage in all the states above that going into New York, but not covering New York for once. So again, a little bit of a complicated system here, a little bit hard to explain. That's weather for you guys. Unless you're on here every 8 hours giving an update, it's really hard to project exactly what's going to happen. So using these charts are very helpful sometimes. This is what the expectation is by Sunday the 13th. So after looking at those charts, you can kind of get an idea of why we're expecting to see snow, especially in North Carolina. That's going to be very interesting to see if we get anywhere close to 8 to 10 inches of snow on the border of Virginia and North Carolina. So All right, I hope I explained that well enough, guys. I know I jumped around a little bit, but information important enough to get out to you guys for sure. Now, last but not least, I got to give Caroline credit for this stuff. Before we get storms like this, for some reason, we've been capturing these pictures of clouds with these waves in them. Just unbelievable pictures. One of them I touched up a little bit. This one right here. You can clearly see there's a pattern in the sky with these clouds, and they're just some unbelievable shots that she took, and I could not live with myself without showing these. And it's really weird because we get a lot of these skies before we get crazy weather. And I know, yes, these are doctored pictures, but this is the original. And then you just bring out some color and stuff like that. Simple Photoshop stuff, nothing added, nothing subtracted, just bringing out different colors, as you can see here. But for the future, guys, for those of you that are expecting winter storms, take a look at your skies before you're expected to get storms like that, and you may see stuff like this. And if you do, please feel free to send this in. Let us know that you have these on camera. We love getting pictures like this. We'll feature them at any given time whenever they're sent in to us. There's another little edit of this one here. And then this was pretty cool. I'll show this to you guys. This was a Twitter post out of Ukraine. This was a snow tornado, a little minor snow tornado. We get these dust devils in the desert sometimes, but this one was made of snow. So considering the topic, I figured I would just show that to you guys. All right, that's all I got for you for now, guys. I'll leave you alone for the night. I hope everyone is safe. Have a great night. Tomorrow's another day. We will see where this storm is progressing and where the biggest areas to watch are going to be. All right, guys, take care. Have a great night. Thank you all. Bye-bye.